Welcome to Bored to Sleep, where history isn't boring, it's dangerously entertaining. We dive into the messy, awkward, and downright weird side of the past, told like a story you can't put down. Subscribe for gloriously uncomfortable history, and maybe a few sleepless nights. You wake up in 1776, and the first thing you notice is the heat. Not the pleasant, oh, it's a warm day kind, but the oppressive, sticky, slap-you-in-the-face humidity that clings to your skin like a desperate ex. The air smells like a strange cocktail of horse manure, wood smoke, and a faint tang of rotting fish wafting in from the Delaware River. There's a fly buzzing near your ear, and you swat at it only to realize there will be more. Many more. You're in Philadelphia, but not the cheesesteak, sports fan, neon sign Philadelphia you might know. No, this is the Colonial version. Unpaved streets, carriages creaking over cobblestones, and buildings that look like they were built from whatever wood, nails, and prayers the locals could scrounge up. People bustle past in wool coats and long dresses despite the heat, because fashion rules are apparently written by sadists. Somewhere nearby, a church bell rings, deep and metallic, signaling another long day of something important, or at least something loud. You re inside a stuffy hall that's seen more arguments than a family group chat during election season. The Continental Congress is meeting, which in reality is less majestic statesmen in perfect harmony and more overheated men bickering in fancy handwriting. The air inside is worse than outside. No fans, no breeze, just 30 or so dudes sealed in a room with closed windows to keep out flies. Which somehow doesn't work, because the flies are still here, casually landing on the inkwells like they own the place. Someone nearby coughs, a deep phlegmy cough that makes you instinctively lean away. Remember, this is a time before antibiotics, so that sound might mean, I have a mild cold, or you re about to attend my funeral. You look around at the so-called legends of history. Thomas Jefferson hunched over a desk, scratching at parchment with the intensity of a man trying to beat a boss fight. John Adams pacing and gesturing like he's in the middle of a TED Talk no one asked for, and Benjamin Franklin lounging with a half smirk as if he knows something about everyone in this room, and probably does. Outside, the political situation is chaos. The colonies are basically ghosting Britain, and Britain isn't taking it well. Soldiers are out there somewhere, ships on the horizon, the threat of war buzzing louder than the flies. Inside, these men are deciding the fate of a country that technically doesn't even exist yet, while also debating whose handwriting looks the most authoritative on a declaration. The vibe is part history in the making, part terrible office meeting that will never end. There's tension, there's excitement, there's the faint smell of unwashed wigs. You realize you're in the middle of something world-changing, and also that your seat is giving you a splinter. Before you have time to fully take it all in, Franklin raises an eyebrow, leans toward you, and whispers, "Hope you're ready, kid. History doesn't write itself." And just like that, you're in. You think your job is bad? At least you have air conditioning, maybe a swivel chair, maybe a coffee machine that doesn't try to kill you. Here, being part of the Continental Congress is like signing up for a lifetime membership at the Sweaty Men Debate Club. There's no lunch break unless someone remembers to bring stale bread. There's no HR department to stop Franklin from making eyebrow-raising comments. And there's no such thing as off the clock, because you live in an era when work and survival are basically the same thing. Your daily routine starts with waking up at the crack of dawn, not because you want to, but because that's when the noise outside makes sleep impossible. The street is alive with the clatter of hooves and the shouts of vendors hawking bread, fish, and questionable medicinal tonics that are probably just booze in a fancy bottle. Breakfast is whatever you can grab. A slab of cold meat, yesterday's bread, maybe some porridge if you're lucky. Don't even think about coffee unless you reloaded or have good trade connections. Tea is still a political statement. And thanks to that whole Boston Harbor incident, drinking it in public is basically a dare. Once you get to the hall, the real grind begins. Your tools of the trade? A quill, an ink pot, and enough patience to listen to men argue for hours about commas. The air smells of parchment, candle smoke, and bodies that haven't seen a proper bath since. Well, no one's keeping track. The windows are closed to keep out the flies, which just means you now slow cooking in your own sweat, while Jefferson reads another draft of something he swears is shorter this time. Spoiler, it's not. And the meetings. Oh, the meetings. Everyone talks like their voice is the voice of destiny, which means nobody shuts up. Adams is pacing again, voice climbing, hands flailing like he's conducting an orchestra only he can hear. Someone's muttering about taxes, someone else is scribbling in a notebook like they're plotting revenge, and Franklin is leaning back in his chair, looking like he's just waiting for the right moment to drop a punchline. You can't even zone out, because if they call your name and you're not paying attention, you might accidentally agree to something dangerous like funding the war effort out of your own pocket. Lunch is not an escape. It's salted meat so briny your lips go numb, hard cheese that smells like someone dared it to survive the apocalypse, and maybe an ale to wash it down, though it's warm, flat, and slightly sour. You are trying to look interested while silently calculating how much longer until you can leave without being accused of treason. By the time the day ends, you're exhausted, slightly deaf from the constant shouting, and covered in a thin film of sweat and candle soot. Tomorrow, you'll wake up and do it all again. And the day after that. Because this isn't just a job. It's history being built with ink, arguments, and sheer stubbornness. And no one's quitting until the ink dries. Let's talk about your co-workers because they're the real entertainment here. First up, Thomas Jefferson, tall, awkward, and the kind of guy who looks like he'd rather be writing alone in a candlelit room than making small talk. He's polite, soft-spoken, but there's always this faint air of, I am silently judging your entire vocabulary. He's the one scribbling furiously in the corner, pausing only to mutter something about unalienable rights, like he's crafting the most important Instagram caption in history. Then there's John Adams. If Jefferson is the quiet storm, Adams is the hurricane. He's short, round-faced, and powered entirely by indignation and tea. He can go from calm to full-on debate mode in 2 sentences, and once he starts, it's impossible to stop him. You'd think he was arguing for his life every single time, whether the topic is liberty, taxation, or which tavern serves the best cider. Adams talks with his whole body, pacing, waving his arms, pointing like he's personally accusing the British Empire of stealing his lunch. And of course, the human contradiction himself, Benjamin Franklin. He's a genius, a diplomat, an inventor, and also the kind of man who would absolutely flirt with the waiter while negotiating a treaty. Franklin is equal parts philosopher and party animal. One moment he's quoting some ancient text, the next he is telling a slightly scandalous joke that makes the younger delegates choke on their ale. He has this twinkle in his eye that says he knows something about everyone, and it's probably true. There are others, too. George Washington, who isn't here all the time, but has an intimidating presence whenever he is. He stands ramrod straight, eyes forward, like he was carved from military discipline itself. People don't interrupt Washington. You don't even look at him too long unless you're ready to explain yourself. Then there's the quieter delegates who hover on the edges of the room, speaking only when they have something calculated to say, like verbal snipers. Conversations are a mix of high ideals and petty grudges. You might be in the middle of an intense debate about representation in government, only for Franklin to casually bring up Adams' disastrous singing voice at last week's tavern gathering. They'll break for lunch and still be mid-argument, passing bread like it's a weapon of truce. These men can go from laughing together to questioning each other's loyalty in seconds, and the mood swings are as unpredictable as the weather. And you're stuck in the middle. Sometimes you're a witness to genius, other times you are watching grown men bicker about the wording of a single sentence for 4 straight hours. You try to keep a neutral expression, nodding like you're taking mental notes, but mostly you're wondering how many more weeks it'll take before someone throws a chair. The truth is, they're brilliant and flawed in equal measure. They're here to shape a nation, but they're still human. And humans are messy, and that's exactly what makes this whole chaotic room so alive. When the sun dips below the rooftops, the city changes. By daylight, Philadelphia is loud, grimy, and chaotic, but you can at least see the hazards coming. At night, it's a different beast. The shadows swallow the streets, and you are walking through a dim maze lit only by flickering lanterns that seem more decorative than functional. The cobblestones are uneven, treacherous, and one wrong step can turn your ankle into kindling. Somewhere in the distance, a dog howls. Somewhere closer, a drunk man is singing, loudly, badly, and possibly to himself. There's no police force, not really. If trouble finds you, your best defense is your own voice or your feet. Pickpockets prowl like cats, slipping between dark corners. You keep one hand on your coin purse and the other ready to push open the tavern door because the streets are not the place to linger. The smell is stronger now. Sewage, horse droppings, and the sweet-sour aroma of spilled ale soaking into wood. Inside the tavern, the air is thick with smoke and heat, lit by candles that melt into warped, waxy puddles. The place hums with energy, dice games in the corner, tankards slamming against tables, whispered gossip exchanged over mugs of ale. You can't go 3 steps without bumping into someone armed, whether it's a soldier, a dock worker with a knife tucked into his belt, or a merchant with a pistol half hidden under his coat. This is where information trades hands, where loyalties are tested, and where, if you're unlucky, someone might decide you look like the enemy. You hear talk of British troops on the move, rumors of spies in the city, and even whispers about loyalists living right under everyone's nose. A man 2 tables over swears he saw redcoats scouting near the river. Another swears he didn't see anything and that the man is full of it. No one can agree on the truth, but everyone agrees it's dangerous to speak too loudly. Even back at your lodging, there's no real safety. The walls are thin, the locks are questionable, and the night is full of strange noises. You hear boots clattering past your window, the creak of a cartwheel, and once, unmistakably, the sound of a duel breaking out down the street. You crack the shutters just enough to see 2 silhouettes, steel flashing in the moonlight, until one of them limps away and the other disappears into the dark. The streets don't sleep. Even when the noise fades, you know the tension is still there, waiting for daylight to stir it back up again. In this city, danger doesn't announce itself. It just slides out from the shadows and taps you on the shoulder when you least expect it. You lie back on your straw mattress, staring at the ceiling, wondering if tomorrow will bring glory or a noose. Here's the thing about all this. The sweat, the shouting, the danger in the streets. It's not just random chaos. These people are gambling everything they have for an idea. Not gold, not land, not even personal safety. Just an idea that a bunch of ragtag colonies could tell the most powerful empire in the world to get lost and actually survive the fallout. When you strip away the powdered wigs and the fancy quills, it's just humans doing something incredibly reckless because they think it's worth it. They're not saints. Jefferson owned slaves while writing about liberty. Franklin loves a good party more than a good bath. Adams has a temper that could start wars all on its own. Washington is stoic, but his soldiers are freezing and starving half the time. They're messy, contradictory, and often hypocritical, which, let's be honest, makes them sound suspiciously like the politicians you already know. But here's the difference. Failure here doesn't mean bad polling numbers. It means a rope around the neck. It's easy to romanticize them now, to put them on money and carve them into mountains, but in this moment, they're just trying to hold it together. Every meeting, every letter, every awkward handshake is a step along a tightrope stretched over a pit of bayonets. If they slip, there's no second chance. Britain isn't the type to forgive and forget. They are the type to make an example out of you. And yet, somehow, in the middle of this sweaty, paranoid chaos, they're building something real. They're shaping a framework that will outlast them, or at least they hope it will. You can feel it in the way Jefferson furrows his brow over a sentence, in the way Adams's voice cracks from arguing too hard, in the way Franklin leans back after a joke, eyes sharp, always calculating. This isn't just about the here and now. It is about planting a flag in the ground and daring history to try and rip it out. You realize that this is what history actually looks like. Not clean, not perfect, not inevitable. It's uncomfortable. It's dangerous. It is the kind of thing where you don't know if you're a hero or a lunatic until decades later when someone writes the story down. And even then, they'll probably get half of it wrong. So here's the question. If you were here, would you have the guts to do it? To sit in that sweltering hall day after day? To put your name on a document that could get you killed? To walk home at night knowing a musket ball could find you before breakfast? Or would you quietly fade into the background and hope someone else changed the world for you? Because history doesn't write itself, and it definitely doesn't wait for the comfortable.